Okay, so there's no doubt that when it comes to rugby, we are dealing with a game of toughness. Tough players facing off head to head in an 80-minute battle for dominance, filled with continual physical collisions. And a lot of people are then going to make the connection that in order to play their best rugby, they need to become tough. And I guess they're not wrong, but most go about it in completely the wrong way. So in today's episode of the Rugby Muscle Podcast, I'm going to run through what real rugby toughness actually looks like, how it's built, how you can show it on the pitch, and what the typical methods that you see, the military style training, redlining cardio, screaming your lungs out, that's just not it. If you're new here or you've been lurking, now's the time to hit subscribe. Wherever you listen to this as a podcast, if you haven't already done so, give us a 5-star rating, it really does help out. Or if you're just watching on the YouTube, hit that thumbs up button and let me know what you think of this episode in the comments below. That really does help out. And if you're really serious about leveling up your game, check out the links of what we offer with Rugby Muscle in the description below. All right, so let's get into it. First, we need to define what toughness really is, especially for us as rugby athletes that we want to show on the pitch. Personally, I don't think that toughness is about screaming your lungs out or crawling through mud. I don't think it's about suffering for the sake of it. And I think one of the biggest myths is thinking that the military style training that you see the guys do when they're doing basic training or when they're trying to get into the military, a lot of people think that that creates toughness. But here's the truth, it doesn't. It filters for it, right? In the military, especially in the combat roles, you're being tested for the ability to endure extreme, unpredictable adversity. It is not training toughness, it's identifying who already has it, because then you can develop all of the physical capabilities after later down the line. And obviously you need a certain base, but it's more about filtering for the type of person that they want to see in the military. Rugby, on the other hand, is a repeatable sport. You've got 80 minutes, you've got structured roles, some level of prediction. There is chaos within the game, but there is lots of different things that you know that you're going to need. And the adversity that you face is real, but it's not war. And the other thing is also that you're dealing with the players that you're dealing with anyway, right? So you're not going to discard a player because he's not mentally tough. You're going to try to make them fitter, stronger, faster. And that is applying to the role of a coach. But as a player, you must understand that, again, you don't need to put yourself through your own filtering process to see whether you're weak or tough or whatever. You just need to train the traits that you need to train to become a better player. So if you're trying to build toughness, doing stuff that is designed to simulate like life or death chaos, you're kind of off track, and you're not only sort of wasting your time, you're potentially wasting a lot of energy, a lot of recovery, because this stuff is brutal and you're not really getting much reward out of it. For me, real rugby toughness is about being able to impose your will again and again and again throughout the game so that you can essentially dominate an entire 80-minute game. And I'll give you an example from my own career. When I was younger, I thought that I was tough because I could go all game at a decent output, even with my lungs burning, my heart rate probably redlining, like really breathing heavy. I remember people that would come to watch me would say like, "Oh my God, you look so exhausted when you're playing. How can you keep pushing?" I thought, yeah, that meant that I was tough because I could keep pushing even though I felt exhausted through the game. But what I didn't realize was that I was actually making my life way harder for myself. I wasn't fit enough. I didn't have a robust aerobic base. And once I really focused on building a real relentless aerobic capacity through zone 2 work, through low level aerobic activity and cardio, it was only then that I was able to not just survive on the pitch, but really thrive. And actually that's what enabled me to make carry after carry and tackle after tackles, because I could position myself, I could see the game playing out because I was nice and calm. I wasn't thinking about how exhausted I was clear-headed, breathing mostly through my nose with a calm composure, and I was able to dominate because of that. And that's the type of toughness that's going to win games. Not effort for effort's sake, but the ability to perform repeated, successful efforts without falling apart. And you don't get that from grinding out red line circuits or trying to out-suffer your teammates. You get it from structured, progressive conditioning. The kind that most will skip because it's not sexy, because for some reason no one ever takes their conditioning as seriously as their strength work, even though it's called strength and conditioning. Now, this approach for me worked because I already had a decent level of strength and power. I was that guy that didn't take my conditioning seriously, but I certainly did take my strength work completely seriously. But for you, maybe if you're not dominating collisions in the first place, if you're getting stopped dead in your tracks, then maybe it's not a conditioning problem at all. Maybe it's a strength issue. Or maybe you're already strong, but you move like a double-decker bus. You get misdirected in contact, guys step around you. No one really considers you a tough opponent because even though you're strong, you're easy to manipulate and you're easy to therefore dominate. In that case, your issue is probably speed, power, athleticism. All of that is going to make you a tougher opponent. It's all going to be a case-by-case basis because what you need as a player is going to be specific. That's exactly why I work with athletes one-on-one and why all of the programs within Team Rugby Muscle are tailored based on different needs, different elements of rugby strength and conditioning, different schedules and different times of the season. So if you want to fix those, want to become the player that looks and plays tough on the weekend, I'll put the links in the description for how you can get more information on that. So I honestly think that toughness on the rugby pitch is mostly going to be a physical problem. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Think about it. You could bring in David Goggins, Tom Aspinall, the blokes from Jackass. Maybe that's an old man reference. Maybe we talk about Power Slap, the guys that are just standing there getting walloped in the face. You could make the case that all of these guys are tough, but would they be effective in a rugby match? Probably not, because toughness in rugby is about being able to physically execute and dominate your opponent over and over and over in a rugby game. So that's rugby, right? But one area I do think that mental toughness might actually exist and benefit you as a player, because I feel like already so far I might have let you down in this area because you were here hoping that I could make you tougher. There is one area that I do think that toughness is important, and that is self-belief. A tough player is someone who knows that they need to make the defensive line and they just get there, right? They don't see that gap and think, oh, I need to get there, and they sack it off. Essentially what I'm talking about here is becoming a player or a person that continually does what they say they're going to do. Not just when it's comfortable, not just when it suits you, even when it's really uncomfortable, even when it's really difficult. You're someone that follows through on things that you need to do because you've trained yourself to be able to follow through. Toughness is about consistency. It's about doing the boring stuff repeatedly, not just grinding when you're really motivated or fired up. Most players screw this up by setting themselves ridiculous plans. They want to be tough, so they set themselves a 6 gym session a week, no sugar, cold plunges, new diet, new program, double sessions, let's go, no days off, this time I'm serious. Look, that is not tough. That's actually just delusional. And even worse, it's kind of a trap, because when you miss one thing, you've done or you've not done what you said you're going to do. And you're now giving yourself an excuse to just completely give up. Because if I've not done that one thing, I don't need to do this next thing. All of a sudden, this whole plan, all of the things that you said that you were going to do seem less important because you've already not followed through on one of those things. And you just don't build belief that way. You build it by creating simple, realistic, non-negotiable plans, and then you win. And then you win again. And then you win again. And you stack up those wins over and over and over again. That is what builds momentum. That is what builds real toughness. And that is also what builds the physical results. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down here, you're probably starting to connect the dots, right? If you're someone that continually doesn't follow through, chops and changes, ghosts training, never feels confident on the pitch, chances are you're also unfit, underprepared, and nowhere near your potential on the rugby pitch. But the solution is not to go harder. It's to probably make things much easier for yourself so that you can actually build some momentum and make progress across the 5 elements of rugby strength and conditioning. Strength, aerobic conditioning, speed, power, and athleticism. And if you're dialing those in, then you don't need to do anything fancy. In fact, I would warn you against doing the fancy stuff because that fancy stuff is harder to follow through on. And once you do that, you're going to be stronger in contact, you're going to recover faster, move better, and stay sharp whilst everyone else around you is fading. And again, that is what real toughness looks like on the pitch. Not just pushing through fatigue, but making fatigue irrelevant because you're so fit that you can continually impose your will on the game. And so one final thing I want to address here is that this is not a quick fix. Tough players don't panic. They don't bail on the plan because the week didn't go perfectly. They don't jump from program to program because they see something else. They don't chase shiny objects and quick hacks. They stick to what works and they trust in the process even when it gets uncomfortable. Toughness is about being mentally steady, not emotionally reactive and scarce. If you're looking long term, you understand that 1 week doesn't make or break your season. 2 weeks, even 3 weeks, it doesn't. It's about stacking up those weeks over and over and over again, counting those wins. All of a sudden, you're doing what you said you're going to do. You're going to see that in the evidence of not just the tick boxes of the training sessions, but the results of the training sessions as you're fitter, stronger, faster, and more athletic and more successful in your rugby training. So yeah, rugby toughness, it's not going to be found in military style boot camps. It's not going to be built within the chaos. It's going to be built through clarity, consistency, and control. And then once that foundation is built, yes, you're going to go into the chaos of rugby within your matches and your training, and you're going to perform because you're going to believe in yourself. The lads I see that play the best, who impose their will, who win those key moments over and over again within the games of rugby, they're strong, they're conditioned, they're mentally dialed in, and that is what I want for you. If this episode helped you rethink toughness, drop me a review, let me know in the comments below, and share it with a teammate. And if you want to take this journey one step further, check out the links for what we have to offer here at Rugby Muscle. I appreciate you very much for listening. Catch you in the next one.